that they have been bolstered by the introduction of this economy, but more that many other professions have been brought to a place that they've always existed in. And if anything, I think because of that, artists have always known that even when you are comfortably employed somewhere, you're always freelance. You're always trying to connect, trying to show your work, and trying to kind of grow your own personal brand. And so that puts a company like mine that is always seeking new talent in a great place, because there's always been that talent looking for us. Again, with the innovations that social media has brought, now every artist, their portfolio is their Instagram, and their Instagram is easily accessible and searchable. No longer am I dependent on waiting from an email from somebody to discover them. Now I can go and search myself, and just by filtering through hashtags, I can find the right candidate for the job. So it is, the amount of flexibility and freedom it's given me has been tremendous. And I think that's really what's elevating content creation now is, again, it's just the access to other creatives is unprecedented.
I'm going to make a point about Max, probably the youngest member of the panel here. And
oh, sure, rub it in.
Yeah.
You guys have all got other skills. But one of the points I'm going to make to him.
Pros and cons.
Pretend Max isn't here for a second, because I'm going to talk about him in a sort of deprecating way. Max grew up in an artist ecosystem like this, where the gig economy is already there. It's already established, been done for years. That's not the case in reality. You used to join Disney back in the day, and you did the ink and paint thing for 40 years, right? You hung your hat on the animation studios of old, and you worked there for 20 or 30 years. So that is actually what this community was. It has gotten changed over time, and Max is standing on the other side of it going, this is great, I've got all this flexibility, I've got all this, he knows how to work it already. Some of these other companies are probably not going to be as nimble and flexible in their hiring and approaches as Max, but he's already there and he's succeeding with it, so I think that's really cool. Evan, what do you see in terms of staffing, candidates, talent, et cetera?
For sure. I think Petrol is always really invested in internal structures. Meaning, yeah, we do have a lot of artists, and the gig economy has been present. But what we've always done is we've looked for candidates and staff members and team members who have core competencies, super strong passions, and then we will invest in them, promote from within, and try to bring them, basically get a lot of ownership, self-ownership at Petrol. And then what we find is that, we take that core competency and that passion, and we can coach it, we can structure it, we can shape it to a way that we know that's been successful for Petrol in the past, and then we continue to develop them until where a situation like myself, who I came up as an intern at Petrol, and have worked through, worked with Alan and the team there over the last decade, to a point to where I'm, working on some amazing properties, like we had mentioned with Call of Duty. It's something that I had dreamed of as a gamer, as a young guy, but I had that core competency and that inherent skill set that's been coached and guided and mentored to a place that, we can be super successful together.
I think my company, we roughly 15 people. We're really, and we've worked with Petrol in the past and so forth, we're really of that same, we want to bring that team in, we want that investment, we want the team to help knit our squad together, and we'll use outside, as needed, a bit to supplement some external capabilities that we may not have internally, but we generally like to have that team, and there's a strength in numbers, and when you've got that posse together like that. So, and by the way, what a great story, right? The intern, and now he's senior vice president, so I love that.
That is great.
Christine, what human capital, what do you guys struggle with? What do you guys succeed with?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, in healthcare, our unemployment rate is 2.3%. In the San Fernando Valley, we have other great health systems in addition to Providence. We have UCLA, we have Cedars-Sinai, we have independent practitioners with large practices, small practices. So we're all competing for that same pool of candidates. At Providence, we also have another layer on top of it, because we are really focused and driven on our mission and our values. We are a not-for-profit entity. We believe that we are the safety net for the community, and it's part of our mission to care for the poor and vulnerable. So we have another layer of really, making sure that we're hiring people that are the right fit for us as an organization. And so with that being said, we really focus a lot on, again, hiring the right fit and retention strategies. So for us, it cost us about 6 to 9 months worth of someone's salary to replace that position. So again, retention is a big, big part of our organization. We're constantly looking at that. We really focus around rewards and recognition program, as well as leadership development and management development. We feel that in order to retain talent, we need to have strong leaders that are supporting our employees. And so that's really important for us. So it's something that we're constantly focusing on, constantly tracking, and just making sure that we are able to retain that talent to work here at Burbank. Luckily for us at St. Joseph Medical Center, we have a lot of our employees that have a really, really long tenure with our organization. What I'm starting to participate in is retirements, 40, 45 years. I mean, and these people that have been with the organization for such a long time come back and volunteer, so they don't really leave us, which is great as well.
That's a great story, and you know, one of the other things we learned earlier in the presentations, we've got record low unemployment right now for several decades. So it's not about necessarily can I find people, but with salaries going up and some of these types of things, it's about getting the right fit.
Yep.
And keeping them forever. So I love hearing that story about retention just coming into your world, because that's a real key driver. People don't pay attention. One of the largest costs to business is the hiring and firing of employees. It puts a huge load. You have months of engagement before productivity hits a certain level.
Yeah, and if I could just make another point, just to put a plug, we also partner with different schools. So we have Providence High School right here in Burbank. The great thing is we actually have a lot of our employees that are graduates from the high school, physicians who went to Providence High School and who've now been inspired to start a career path in healthcare. Providence also partners with nursing schools all around the country, as well as we have our own university. So we have a Providence University in Montana, and we provide education for higher learning at a fraction of the cost for our employees and their family.
Excellent. Just a quick question. Anybody ever gone through Providence High School, through the college, and got to work at one of the medical centers?
You know, I'm sure there have been. Now I got to find out. I'm sure there has been.
That'd be a great story, right?
That would be a fantastic story.
Matt, what do you guys see in terms of you know, the human capital, the talent pool that you need to pull from, and how you guys leverage them full-time, part-time, et cetera?
Yeah, I definitely agree on retention. For me, I think the most surprising trend over the past really year and change has been how quickly top talent just gets snapped up.
Yeah.
I mean, no longer can you have a prolonged interview process that you know, takes weeks upon end. You have people who have, right out the gate, 2 offers, 3 offers for more money, more benefits. And I remember speaking to somebody years ago about interviewing for a job where he said that he lives where he wants to and works where he can. And I think one of the trends now is that you can have the best of both worlds, right? With technology, again, all these companies, the magnet, everything that's coming here with that whole cross-pollination of technology and creativity, people have more options, and companies are willing to pay top dollar for it, which then I think minimizes the time where you can put together a comprehensive offer for people, because if you wait too long, they will be snapped up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think a number of years ago, you know, the recession hit. The report from a lot of kids coming out of college, oh my gosh, I just got my bachelor's degree, I came out of college, I'm working at Starbucks, there's no gigs available for me. And I don't think that's the case anymore. We're seeing internships that are being very lucrative, grabbing kids in their junior year, sending them away for a week in Spain to study with, you know, a global branch office. We see and hear a lot of things in that nature. So yeah, it's a much more competitive place.
Yeah, especially, I mean, talk about the gaming world, right? If you're an engineer or artist and you just know Unity or Unreal, right, you can just write your check pretty much anywhere you want to go right now. And that's just a small example of just so many things that will just continue to advance over time as, again, the convergence of technology chops with a creative mindset. I mean, those are kind of like the people unicorns, right? That they can go pretty much wherever they want to around the world.
Right. Pam, what are you seeing in terms of human capital?
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to improve. We do a lot of programs with programs like Girls Who Code and STEAM Coders and Grace Hopper. Obviously, we're very interested in women in technology. Our CTO is a woman, so that's very exciting for us, which, you know, we're hoping attracts a more diverse set of employees. Certainly, you know, we've added programs like flexibility in the workplace to keep that top talent and to encourage, you know, those top performers to come to Warner Brothers. You know, part of also what we do is we try to educate about how Warner Brothers is really involved in technology and all the patents we have, and that we do develop technology, and a lot of people don't know that. About, you know, us and other studios, that we're not just using it, but we're developing it, and that really helps in starting to attract that talent.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, one of the things, the big gets of technology over the last bunch of years, obviously high-speed internet, and basically the ability to work at home, right? So you're talking about a quality of life, and if I've got a candidate who is excellent in all these areas, and I can bring them into the office 2 days a week instead of 5 and get them, that's a great accomplishment for both parties, right? You get the talent, you have that technology link that keeps them a virtual plug in the machine, but you give them a quality of life component that is not necessarily measured on a paycheck sometimes, right?
And that quality of life, I think, in the grand macro of what we're talking about here, I mean, talk about the branding, I mean, that's the competitive advantage, right? I mean, specifically here about Burbank, it is that quality of life. And you have so many options, you know, wherever you want to go, living here or working here, and that is definitely something that should be taken advantage of.
So each of you belong in one or more industries, but my question is, do you see your industry sort of branching or into new markets, new areas? So Max, let's just say you're doing full-length features or trailers or something like that. Opportunity to break into commercial or industrial. What are other markets that you see your industry possibly branching into or getting into peripherally?
So my other partners in my company, we all come from a background of entertainment production for television, for new media platforms like Netflix. And what's been interesting is we basically left that world to focus more particularly on entertainment on new media and specifically social media platforms. The vast majority of the content that we've created has been for YouTube. And you might be thinking that means, oh, well, you know, they're just making like low-end YouTube cartoons, but we've seen kind of this, people say that we're entering the third wave of influencers, which means that on YouTube, it's no longer just a person talking to a camera in their bedroom, you need production value. And so rather than, in leaving these productions for Netflix and for television, rather than taking a step down to YouTube, we're finding that YouTube is wanting to step up to the content that we've already been creating. And because of that, we can then take it a step further and now leverage like the hard data that you see on YouTube just in terms of views and likes. We can leverage what we have accumulated to then move into commercial. We recently worked on a feature film. We've done commercial work in the past. And that has surprisingly been off of our YouTube work, which again, you might expect to be of a lower caliber, but we're finding that's not really what people are looking for there.
That's really a phenomenal story to sit there and say, we're using this alternate media, we're hoisting ourselves up and getting higher visibility, and it allows us to stay in that medium and be sort of king of the roost, if you will, at that layer, and that's a viable layer at this point. You know, a couple of years ago, it was this fun little thing, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Now it's a viable channel. There's an enormous amount of content and an enormous amount of visibility.
And I mean, for media, the largest barriers are always, you know, access and exposure. You're trying to get your work in front of people. And again, for most creatives, for most of history, that was the biggest challenge. There were gatekeepers, and unless you had access to them, nobody was going to see your work. Now, it's, you know, basically good work is crowdsourced. It's found by the global audience on these platforms. So if you're doing quality work and you can at least put up the initial effort of putting it on the platforms where people will see it. You know, if you build it, they will come.
You're not reliant on the programming department of NBC to say you're in or you're out, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great equalizer.
Yeah.
Evan, what about you?
So
New
this is
markets,
emerging
other
markets.
areas.
Yeah. I think esports right now for gaming is going to revolutionize the way we think about sports and the way we think about sports entertainment. It's kind of at this precipice, and again, to tie it back to Burbank, we've got the ESL here in Burbank, which is the esports league. We have, the Activision Blizzard hosts the Overwatch League, and what was the old NBC studios, now, and I think iHeart is there as well. So there's that arena there, and it's just gonna explode. We're seeing, Drake, Michael Jordan investing, millions of dollars in esports, and basically a flood of non-endemic partnerships. So there's a bunch of brands that see, where we've always had traditionally periphery gaming accessories. Say a headset brand will sponsor an esports event, or a controller will sponsor an esports event. Now we're seeing Kit Kat wants a part of it. We're seeing Red Bull, who's kind of always been on those periphery of those more exciting sports, but then we're also starting to see, bigger brands wanting to be a part of, blue chip brands wanting to be a part of how do they get a piece of esports. And I just think it's going to continue to skyrocket.
That's exciting. Christine, what do you see in terms of peripheral markets? I mean, obviously, to some extent, your mobile app opens up doors. And one of the things about your mobile app you talked about, that is a thing that is good for the consumer, good for the facility. It's a win-win across all boards. But other areas, other industries peripherally that you feel?
Yeah, I think healthcare overall, we're going to be looking for additional revenue streams. So I'll give you an example. Within Providence, we have something called the Digital Innovation Group, and there's about 200 employees, and their sole focus is all things digital. But one piece in that is partnerships and venture. And what we're doing right now is looking to collaborate with large tech companies such as Amazon and Google and Apple. And in doing so, like one of the really great unique pieces is we're looking at artificial intelligence and how by creating artificial intelligence, how could we help the consumer as they're searching digital navigate to access the right point of entry for healthcare. We're looking at partnering with Amazon through Alexa for that digital navigation. So just talking to Alexa, and it's all HIPAA compliant. So as consumers change how they're searching for items, we're really finding ways to be part of that. And we're not just exploring it for our own use, but again, we're looking at alternate revenue streams. So once we build out these initiatives, how could we then leverage that and sell it to other healthcare organizations across the country as an additional revenue source for our organization?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Matt, yourself, what are some of the peripheral areas that you feel there's great opportunities for your industry?
So for us, specifically at the studios, we're going to continue to make movies, but the most interesting aspect will be pushing a lot of the content to our streaming service, which launches later this year. So you have the feature films, our tent poles, and now you have a new breed of content coming to a streaming service, episodic and other aspects of that. That is just going to be incredibly interesting because traditionally, the movie studios have had a disintermediated relationship with consumers, and then with this new path, we are going to have a direct relationship with them. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they react, looking at the data, and then seeing how that potentially informs the type of movies that we create in the future.
I was at a panel probably about a year ago, some Netflix individuals, and one of the things they talked about from a programming standpoint, because we don't have this traditional, we're sending 3,000 films to movie houses, and we've got this on-demand aspect of it, we can build a show that really is only going to have 300,000 viewers and build it for that segment with the cost associated. So we can be we can do the House of Cards, the big giant productions, but we can also do this knitting show that only plays at 11 o'clock on Wednesdays for a targeted group of crafters or something of that nature. So it's really changing the media. Part of what Jeffrey Katzenberg is trying to do, and some of those really targeted and small formats are also. You see some of that as well?
Yeah, I definitely think, the snackable type of content, right, or very specified to niche groups of individuals is going to be fascinating to see how that works. But again, going back to your point earlier, the overwhelming amount of content, it really comes down to the user experience, and it comes to the ability for them to discover the content. And we will never let data drive what we create. But at the same time, it will be used for us to give our creatives and talent superpowers to do things that we can't do today.
Again, to tie a thread together, Amazon isn't about I can buy things; it's I can buy when and where that I want to, right? So a lot of what we see, again with Uber, with on demand, and some of the medical app and so forth, it's when and where I want to interact with this service, which is one of the keys that we see across a lot of industries. Pam, what are some things that you see?
Well, we also have an online streaming service launching, conveniently.
Congratulations.
It's a bit of a trend these days. But yeah, I mean, certainly getting that direct relationship with the consumer is really important to all content creators. Getting more into immersive experiences as well is on our critical path. The experiences like The Void or Dreamscape with this immersive VR experiences, which can translate to even places like a car. And then, to pivot a little bit to something that's a little more back of the house is, we are owned by AT&T, and 5G is very important. We're putting 5G on our lot, and we see opportunities there in our business, not only to help our business grow, but to bring in other businesses and show them how the technology works and perhaps create a business out of that, being a source of 5G.
It makes me want to hang out at the Warner Brothers lot just to get some of that 5G juice. Okay, we've got to kind of wrap this up pretty quick, but I want to ask each of you, we've got some pretty strong people from the city here. Your voice gets to be heard. Give me one really good thing you love about Burbank and one thing you'd like to see better that the city could do to help your business.
The atmosphere that Burbank has created, I really love. So many creative talents don't come to Los Angeles because they've heard about Los Angeles. And I think that Burbank has really done a great job of separating itself. It feels like a self-contained community. And a lot of the things that people complain about greater Los Angeles are completely absent from this space. I think that Burbank, however, has some hurdles that prevent, the Boston Consulting Group spoke specifically about the capacity for content creation in Burbank. And I personally know content creators who have avoided Burbank, even though there's so much opportunity to network, just because of small things. You're not allowed to operate a business in a garage, and there's a lot of policy about home businesses, and artists work from home, and they love to hide in their cave and do their thing. I know a lot of people who've moved to North Hollywood literally just so they could have a garage to operate a business in. Something as simple as that doesn't really cost Burbank anything, I think would open up floodgates to content creators who want to be here because, again, this is the media capital of the world.
That's a great insight. Evan, how about you?
So I love being in Burbank, again, because it being the hub of content creators and the periphery of what we do at Petrol and what I do as an individual or as creatives. And just anecdotally, being in this community means that, you can have very simple experiences with very exciting people. I was just thinking about this. I was at a child's birthday party, very suburban experience in the heart of Burbank, with a feature film composer, a screenplay writer, myself, I work in video games, and another guy who's doing, these amazing props and production design elements, all kind of on the outside of knowing one another, get introduced at our children's birthday party, you know, it's an amazing experience to instantaneous. We've got a network, and you know, we can chat and discuss and take advantage of that network.
That's real networking.
Yeah, and it was authentic, right? It wasn't like, you know, oh yeah, I know that guy from Facebook. Well, maybe I won't talk to him, or I will. It was just it kind of arose, and you know, we all kind of started to draw this out from one another. So I think that's those kind of possibilities, that we were in someone's backyard having a very suburban. This was just
Very Mayberry-esque,
yeah,
right?
very Mayberry. I think that's a great way to describe and then, you know, being able to raise my family here. I moved from Hollywood to here as a choice, not only to eliminate that cross-city commute, but also because there are amazing city services, to the mayor's point, you know, to take advantage of great schools, and yeah, we can get on a platform about it. But and then, you know, as speaking to other people in the office, and I guess one of the things that we would love to see fixed for ourselves, and you know, selfishly, but also we also think it could be a lever, and it seems kind of narrow, but I think it would really help us as a business and businesses in our area, would be parking. Very simply, like, we need municipal parking, you know, with easy access. You know, we're across from Burbank Water and Power, in a very blue collar area, which we love. But there's just very limited resources in that way.
I've been to your parking lot. You're stacked cars deep.
Yeah, and it does. It's inhibiting, and unfortunately. But we would love to see that, you know, addressed.
Our last building for my business, you know, the last building we had, we picked for a number of reasons: square footage, proximity, et cetera. The current building that we picked right now solely was based on, did it have enough parking?
Yeah.
It was the determining factor for us. That's a great point. Christine, what do you see as great things about Burbank and things that you'd like to see improved?
Yeah, so as everybody else mentioned, that community feel, that community support. As the mayor talked about earlier, we're building a brand new emergency department and a brand new on-site urgent care. One of the amazing things about that is it's all philanthropically fundraised through the support of the community, through the support of businesses such as Disney and Warner Brothers and Cusimano, as well as individual contributors and independent community members. And we are really just so thankful for that help and support. That is unheard of in our industry. It's a $75 million project, and you know, we've been here for 75 years, and we're going to continue to be here for another 75 years, and we're positioning ourselves to meet the needs of the community. So I think that really is a testament to what Burbank is, really a community-based city. In terms of what the city could do to continue to help support, I would just say, you know, they've done a great job already with our homeless population in the community, continuing to focus on that. You know, as a healthcare provider, we do see a lot of the homeless population coming in through our emergency department. It's an epidemic across Los Angeles and other parts of the country, as well as the opioid crisis. So I think just as much focus and energy around those would be very much appreciated.
Evan, it makes us look bad when we're talking about parking and she's talking about an opioid crisis. I'm just saying. Matt, what do you see great things about Burbank for your business? And
Sorry.
I love the airport. I mean, there is no better, from Burbank to San Jose, there is no better flight in the world. And look, as far as opportunity is along those lines, I would just still continue to build that broadband or 5G connected tissue with not only NorCal, but as well as with the West Side. I mean, just in the backyard here, you have more and more people who are living in West LA. More of these tech companies come down. Like geographically, it's just perfect with the media center here. There's just so much that will converge here more, and I just think that to continue to build on that momentum and to have the ability to foster new opportunities is going to be very important.
Pam, how about you?
Well, you know, we love Burbank. We've been here since I think it's 1928. So, you know, it's Warner Brothers is really embedded into the community, and it's you know, kind of echoing that it's a really great community, and so we're thrilled to be here. And I'll continue on my 5G bandwagon. You know, we want to build out a 5G network, and so to help that permit process, you know, and those kinds of things get through faster, I think will benefit everyone, not only us, but the other businesses in the community.
Thank you very much, and let's give a warm reception to our panelists. I think this has been great. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm going to return this back to Tom now.
And let's give our moderator a hand, too. Very well done. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. You can step down. And I hope that today's inaugural economic summit was as inspiring and invigorating to you as it is for me. And I said early on, I want to thank all of our speakers who were involved in creating that kind of that good feeling. But now we got to get down to some action. And the fourth takeaway that I'm going to leave with you and people in Burbank is we've got all these wonderful opportunities. It's up to us to take advantage of them because nobody else is going to do it for us. And if we do it, then we go back, we will have the power. And that was a concept introduced by Bank of America in the first session of the day. So it's up to us. If you're interested in a business, an emerging entrepreneur, the Burbank Chamber of Commerce, Better Burbank Corporation, we see this as our mission in driving this effort. We have a table downstairs. You can get more information there. And I want you to read the back of your program. There's the mission statement of both the Chamber of Commerce and the Better Burbank Corporation. So thank you very much for coming, and we hope to see you at next year's. Thank you.